Hey guys, so this is part 2 of training for endurance athletes, and this is all about posture today. So basically we're going to go through sort of 3-4 different key areas, and they're written down, they're really simple actually. They sound kind of complicated. We've got reciprocal inhibition, synergistic dominance, myofascial shortening, and arthrokinetic inhibition. So 4 big words, really simple. 3 major ones really, and then the 4th one's kind of, it's very important, but the rest of it will help. So the first one, reciprocal inhibition, what that really means is a muscle's turned off and it's not really working. So as simple as that. And synergistic dominance is basically its alter ego muscle is overworking. So say we've got your hip flexor working too much and your glutes not working enough. That's one of the ones we're going to focus on today. Myofascial shortening, that's basically one of the reasons you get really tight and sore muscles a lot of the time. Then arthrokinetic inhibition, that's quite a biggie. That's when a lot of muscles get turned off, and that can screw things over a lot. So we're going to start really simple. We're going to draw a bit of a hypothetical person. Luckily I'm a very good drawer, so we'll see. So we're kind of going to go hip complex here, and then we'll bring the legs straight out, and then knee complex, and then we've got the ankle here. So not really too worried about his upper body, but you know, we'll put some sticks coming out the top. Basically these are the basics of it. And then we're going to go through reciprocal inhibition, which is really important first. So this is when the muscle here, his glute, or her glute, is come out like this. So there's the glute, and that gets turned off. So this gets turned off, and that's reciprocal inhibition. And you might think, how does a muscle get turned off, or why would a muscle get turned off? Well, we sit on this for 8 hours a day. That's an 8-hour massage. That's kind of going to get turned off, and also when you're sitting, that's a constant stretch position for this glute. So when you stand up, it's been off so long that a lot of the time it doesn't kick in and do anything. So you've had an 8-hour massage on here, or whatever, or even just driving to the gym or to somewhere before you run, you've given that a massage before you get anywhere. So that's now really turned off, and it's not really doing that much. So that's how you get reciprocal inhibition. Really simply, this muscle gets a massage, it gets turned off, and that's one of the biggest problems with that. And now of course, every time you run, this muscle isn't doing anything, and whether you're thinking that's important or not, that's massively important, because this is the biggest, strongest, most powerful muscle in the body, and that propels you. You know, that's what makes sprinters fast. Whereas these are slow twitch. The front of the body, they're slow twitch fibers. The glutes are quite fast twitch and quite powerful, but the hip flexor, reasonably fast twitch, but the quadriceps, very slow twitch muscles, so they kind of keep you toddling along. And that's why you'll notice some runners have quite big quadriceps, because they've overworked them so much. They actually get a bit hypertrophied and build a bit of muscle from them. Whereas the glutes in long distance runners are quite often almost kind of sagging, there's nothing there. You know, women say I'm doing loads of running, it's not doing anything for my bum. Well, it's not working. Whereas you look at a sprinter, they've got massively powerful glutes. That's because they have to have big ones to propel them, because, you know, they need to be fast. Wouldn't it be best to have the best of both worlds? You know, if you could run long distances, but have massively powerful glutes propelling you, having the strongest muscle in your body, keeping you going, being one of the only people in the race who's actually got their glutes working. You've got the biggest muscle rather than one of the smaller ones working, and you've got the strongest, most powerful thing keeping you going each run. So it is important that your glutes are working for a long distance run, because they will just make a huge difference, and they're going to stop a massive risk of injury. If you don't get that, then you end up getting a lot of torsion here and here, because these ones are trying to basically be pulled forward from your hip, and then often either your back goes, not because you've got a weak back, but because you're not being kept in the middle, or your hamstring tears, because it's trying to do too much work. And that's not good, all because you've got reciprocal inhibition, your glutes are not working, they're turned off. You've sat on them too long, and you've stretched them out too much in a seated position. You know, this is seated, this is turned off for the whole time, and of course when you walk, it's all saggy and it's not doing anything. That's not what you want. And what happens when that happens? You get synergistic dominance. So you get this muscle here, your hip flexor especially, we'll put it somewhere there, coming down, and your quadricep quite often, they overwork. So every time you run now, these muscles are doing too much in here, and is your quad, these are overworking. So each step you take, they're doing all the work, and your glutes aren't doing anything. And of course, that's okay, you might think, but these aren't as efficient as a perfect balance, and these aren't explosive. These are nowhere near as explosive as the glutes. So every time you run, you end up overusing. Okay, we ran out of battery there, but we're back. Basically, part 2, this, like I was saying, these overworking, every time you run, they're going to be pulling you forward, and that's when someone gets in this really bad position. You know, and you see older runners, they can't run as fast because they're actually like this. These are working less and less, and the hips are working more and more. So we've really got to sort that problem out. So as soon as we stretch these, which basically turns them off, it relaxes them a little bit, and switch these on, it's almost as simple as that. You actually get everything sorted, and now you've got the right muscles working in balance with the other ones. They're not wrong, but then you've got a perfect balance. You bring the powered along. So that's what reciprocal inhibition does here. Turns those off. Synergistic dominance overworks these. When they overwork, they're probably going to snap. You know, it's the same when you overwork someone in the office. They get fried after a while. So this is not what we want. We want a balance. And then the next thing we're going to look at is arthrokinetic inhibition. So this one's quite a serious one. Basically, let's say this is the acetabulum. So this is the hip complex area. And then inside the area, you've got your hip coming out like this. So the hip's coming out of there. And what arthrokinetic inhibition basically means is the joint moves slightly. So really simply, this ends up shifting, maybe just a tiny little bit. And you might not think that doesn't really happen, but of course it does. Now that you've got your synergistic dominance, your hip flexors constantly pulling you in. And this ends up going in too much. So of course when it gets forced against all the nerves and everything inside here, not only does that get quite painful eventually, but your body thinks, you know, shit basically. It thinks, you could really damage a lot of the problem here because you're not where you're meant to be. If you keep running, you could chip bits of the acetabulum away and you could actually really destroy it and of course start to give yourself arthritis and really hurt your hips and, you know, wear and tear as the doctors call it, when it was just you had bad posture. And to solve this problem, your body goes, right, you muscles around here, you ain't working no more. Let's down regulate the power a little bit. So when this person runs, they're going to be safe, because your body wants, basically it's not really worried about performance, it's worried about prevention. So, you know, it wants to prevent any injuries. So it down regulates, turns everything off a little bit and says, slow down, you know, let's chill out, let's not injure anything. Because if you had all the muscles here working, you could literally tear that apart and you could really injure yourself. So the body down regulates it for safety. Remember, it's basically, it's not interested in performance, it's interested in keeping everything safe. So what happens is moves. What you've got to do is bring this back into alignment. The first thing to do is solve these problems, and it will help bring things back into alignment. Again, you can do a decompression, which really makes a difference. It sorts all the big problems out here. But we're trying to sort these problems out to sort this out. Because now you've got this muscle working, this one not, and the smaller muscles around the whole hip complex not working at all for safety. And it's not just the hip you get this. You get it very, very badly at the ankle. So we're going to do another picture, just one more. Let's say we've got the ankle here, and it's coming off like this. So this is a person's foot. And the problem that's happened is they've decided to wear a really big trainer is one of the main causes of this, I find. And also, sometimes they wear high heels during the day if you're a woman. If you're a man and you do that, you're strange. And what happens is this basically means you can put more impact and you can do a heel to toe run. Of course, we're not designed to do that. Otherwise, over 3 million years of evolution, we'd have made our own natural springy heels, but we didn't. And what this does is it compresses all the joints around here. And these small joints in here get all compressed, and your body is really worried now. You could damage your ankle as well. So it doesn't just turn off muscles around the ankle. It turns off all the muscles at your hip complex, at your knee, to stop you tearing your ankle apart. Because it's safety, remember. If you gave you all the strength to basically an injured area, you're going to screw it over. So the worst thing you can do to this compressed area is the basic stretch most people do before something, which is coming back and stretching like this. If you run constantly and you're actually doing a constant stretch like that when you go up hills and things, why would you do it? It's insanity to think you want to do that before you go on a run. You're about to do it hundreds and if not thousands of times anyway. So why do it again? You don't need to do that. You need to stretch the opposite muscles and actually pull down. It's actually going to open up the ankle and release a lot of the tension here. And of course that release is going to turn more muscles on. So now you've got a really simple thing. Rather than turning off muscles and stretching the wrong ones, what we do is we get rid of synergistic dominance, we stretch off the right muscles, we get rid of arthrokinetic inhibition by opening up the hips, moving them around with a mobility sequence. Then we get rid of reciprocal inhibition by turning on the right muscles. We do some activation things, maybe some glute bridges for the glutes. But only once these are turned off, otherwise doing the glute bridges will actually overwork those even more. So you turn those off, turn those on, stretch this out, move it out of the joint slightly, boom, now when you go on a run, you're going to be pretty efficient. You're really going to be going really well. So that makes a huge difference. So that's basically, that's the simple and nice, easy way to look at posture. There's a bit more things we can look at, like the myofascial shortening, which is basically, fascia is what moves around all in your body. It's not just as simple as it's not muscle to muscle. Fascia is what holds everything together. And if you tighten one area up, say in your jaw and your head, because the fascia goes from the brow bridge right down to the bottom of your toe, you could pull different areas tight. So the thing to worry about that, all we're going to worry about that for is really hydration. 25% of the water you hold is in the fascia. So if you stay hydrated and get a nice massage to kind of get rid of any tension in the fascial system, or foam rolling is a great cheaper version, you're going to keep the myofascial system pretty healthy and pretty safe. You don't want to be foam rolling just one little area, because then the whole area is going to get loose in the wrong area. You want to break down any adhesions with just gentle foam rolling, kind of loosen it off, and stay hydrated and keep a clean diet without any toxins in there, like the nutrition part we'll talk about. And it's really as simple as that. So summing this all up, nice and easy, we're going to get rid of the synergistic dominance, stretching those muscles off. Then we're going to do a mobility workout to get rid of the arthrokinetic inhibition, which would be all these areas around here. Then we're going to get rid of reciprocal inhibition by turning on the right muscles. We're going to turn on the glutes. And it's pretty much as simple as that. And that's how you make someone really good at running. You just change around, get the right muscles working. Now they're going to be really explosive off the mark, get everything going. You might be a bit confused and wondering where to go from here. Basically what I've done for you is on my website, olliestraining.com, there is actually going to be a video which will take you through how to do this. You can download this video and I'm going to show you how to stretch off and release these and do some foam rolling on there, and then really work through all the tight areas, which isn't just the hip flexor. That was just an example. And then switch on the gluteus medius and gluteus maximus and basically get ready to go. So there's a great video. If you pop on my website, you can download it and it is all there, totally free. And of course, leave me some comments of what you think of this, and definitely visit my blog, olliestraining.com.